Welcome back to the channel, and for this week's video, make sure you stay till the end because I'm going to go over both my 2024 poker and YouTube income. Each week, I host an online meetup game on the Club GG app, and I give away $100 to the highest stack. If you want in, or you're looking for a place to play low-stakes online poker, click the link in the description. For this week, we head out to the highest quality card room in Northern California, which is none other than Stone's Gambling Hall. We buy into the 1-2 game for the max of 300, and this game looks crazy. There's 4 players who have been playing all night long, and straddles are being splashed around, so that only means big pots and lots of action. We start off the day picking up some nice holdings with both ace-queen suited and king-queen offsuit, but we get some terrible low-card flops in multi-way pots, so we're forced to give up with them. Seems like it's been a common theme lately, but in order to play in bigger pots, we add on $100 to get our stack to the max of 300. We ended up moving seats to get a better view for the vlog, and in terms of action, this seat change didn't disappoint. In our first interesting hand to know, I throw on the $4 button straddle and see 3 people just call the $4. I'm last stacked on the button and look down at pocket 4s. If I had a bigger pair like 9s or better, I'd raise in position. But since 1-2 players like limping with pairs like 5s through 8s, I don't see the point in bloating up the pot when I might not have the best hand. So I check my option, we go 4 ways to a beautiful flop of ace-jack 4 rainbow giving us bottom set. Even though we have bottom set, I think it's safe to say we have the best hand since aces or jacks would have been raised pre-flop. Action gets checked all the way to me, and I throw out a super small bet of $7 to keep all the pairs weaker than an ace in there. I get 2 callers from the under the gun limper and the hijack, so we're going 3 ways to a turn. Turn peels off the 5 of clubs, putting 2 clubs on the board, and once again action gets checked all the way to me. A value bet is still in order, so I decide to throw out a bet of $28 targeting all the ace-x hands and backdoor flush draws. Once again, both players put in the call, so I think it's safe to say at least one of them has an ace at this point. The pot's now up to $120, and we go to a river which comes out the king of hearts. For the 3rd straight time, action gets checked to me, and the only thing that crossed my mind at the time is how much I could bet for a weak ace to call and take these guys to Value Town. I take a quick second before settling on a 2/3 pot sizing of $85. Under the gun puts in the fastest call I've ever seen, and the other player gets out of the way. I confidently turn over my hand expecting to be good, but our opponent turns over pocket aces for top set.
Oh shit.
That was honestly the last thing I was expecting, especially in a limped pot. For the 2nd vlog in a row, we're at the bottom end of a set over set, which is unheard of. We've been running like shit the last few sessions, but the only good news is we should have gone broke in that hand, and we still have a lot of chips in front of us. Only thing to do after that ridiculous cooler is add on some more chips, so I reach in my wallet and grab another $100 bill, so we're now into the game for $500 total. Next hand up is against a crazy action player who's been playing since the night before, and he's sitting with over $1,500 in his stack at a 1-2 game, so it's safe to say he's been sun running. He opens the action to $9 in middle position, and I already sense weakness. I've picked up on a pre-flop sizing tell he has because he's been opening his monster holdings to $18 and his weak ones to just $9. So when it folds to me in the small blind and I look down at 10-9 of spades, it's time to put in the 3-bet to $35. I like this specific hand as a 3-bet because I could rep monsters on all kinds of different boards. Folds to our opponent in middle position and he quickly puts in the call. With 70 in the middle, the flop comes out 7-3 deuce with 2 diamonds, giving us 2 overs to go along with some backdoor straight and flush draws. When I'm bluffing, I try to think of the sizing I'd use if I had a good value hand like jacks through aces, and on this board I'd bet rather small, not wanting to scare away any of his 1-pair holdings. So that's what I'd do and start off with a c-bet of $30. He puts in the call pretty quick, and it's hard to narrow down his range on such a disconnected board, so let's see if we can apply pressure on most turns. I'm pretty happy with the turn because it peels off the jack of spades, which now gives us a ton of equity against any holding. We not only pick up a flush draw, but we also have a gut shot, and any 8 will give us a straight. There's now $130 in the pot, and I want to bet a sizing that could get a pair below a jack to fold. I go with a bet of $75 to put those hands in a tough spot and give myself enough chips behind to jam on blank rivers. Once again, our opponent puts in the call, so I think we could put him on a range now. I think he could have all the front door diamond draws, 4-5 for the straight draw, and maybe some stubborn one-pair holdings like 8s through 10s that isn't looking to fold yet. The pot's now sitting at $280, and we have about a half pot bet left in our stack. One time, dealer. Please give us a spade or a non-diamond 8. We get exactly what we want because the river peels off the 6 of spades, giving us the rare backdoor flush. I take a quick second before confidently going all in. Our opponent snap calls, and I turn over my hand expecting to be good, but he turns over ace-3 of spades for the better backdoor flush.
Son of a bitch!
I'm no math whiz, but the odds of being on the shit end of a set over set and then backdoor flush over backdoor flush, back-to-back hands, has to be astronomical. I don't know who the hell I pissed off, but to say the least, the cards are definitely not on my side so far. With 0 chips left in my stack, I reach back into the wallet and out on $300 to get to the max, and within just 1 hour of play, I'm already into a 1-2 game for $800. Not only did we just lose over $400 in back-to-back hands, but to make matters worse, we went card dead and got dealt straight garbage for the next hour. So when I look down at King Jack offsuit from under the gun, this should definitely be a fold because it's a terrible hand to play out of position and against 8 other ranges, but after seeing trash for the last hour, this looked like pocket aces at this point. I raise it up to $10 and get called from the player to my left and 2 other people, going 4 ways to a flop of King Jack 4 rainbow, giving us top 2 pair. Normally I'm thrilled with this flop, but getting monsters back-to-back hands and somehow losing, my confidence isn't too high. I decided to start off with a super small bet of just $7 since I pretty much have this board locked up. Player to my left, who's maybe played 5 hands all day, decides to now raise my bet up to $37. Folds back to me, and now I have to figure out what the hell he has. This player has been super tight post-flop, so I'm not feeling too great about it. He hasn't gotten out of line all day, so the hands I'm putting him on are King Jack for the chop, pocket 4s, and maybe the occasional pocket jacks that didn't 3-bet pre-flop. I highly doubt he has Queen 10 suited for the semi-bluff, but you never know. I'm not doing too great against his value range, but I'm never folding top 2 pairs, so I put in the call. $115 in the pot, and the turn comes out the 3 of hearts, putting 2 hearts on the board. I check in flow, and now our opponent throws out a bet of $45. Seems a tad small, that looks like he's trying to set his price to check back rivers, so I debated raising at this point, but turn raises are such an underbluff spot, I decided to just call since we have less than a pot-sized bet left. Pot's now up to $205, and our opponent has about $170 left in his stack. River peels off the beautiful jack of clubs, giving us the full house. I'm obviously never checking in this spot now that we made our hand, so I decide to put our opponent all in for $170, hoping that he has pocket 4s. He doesn't snap call, so I think pocket 4s are out of the question, but he also doesn't snap fold, so there's no way he had Queen 10. He goes into a mini tank, wondering how the jack helped me, before folding his hand face up, showing ace-king offsuit for top pair, top kicker. I've been so used to players that 1-3-3 betting ace-king pre-flop that it didn't even cross my mind that was in his range. If I put him on ace-king, I probably would have min-clicked the flop so we could set up a turn jam, but that just wasn't in the cards. Good fold by our opponent, and after 2 hours of play, we finally scoop in our first pot of the day. Next hand up, under the gun opens to $8, straddler calls, and I'm in the small blind and look down at ace-queen offsuit. The $8 open is usually weakness in this game because a lot of 1-2 players like sizing up huge with their big hands to avoid going super multi-way. So given that, I decided to put in the squeeze play and raise to $35. The big blind, who's the same opponent from last hand who didn't 3-bet ace-king, puts in the cold call, and surprisingly all the other players get out of the way. Cold calls are usually pocket pairs like nines through queens that don't like re-raising, or like we saw earlier, a hand like ace-king. There's $85 in the pot, and the flop comes out 10-8 deuce rainbow, which isn't the best board we could have asked for. I start off with a $35 range bet, and our opponent snap calls. Pot's now up to $155, and the turn peels off the 4 of hearts, and now it's decision time. Our opponent has about $135 remaining in his stack, and given the pot size, there's only 2 plays. Check and evaluate, or go all in. The way he snap called pre-flop and on the flop, it just screamed to me that he had a very good hand. So I decided to go with the low variance route and decided to check it over to him, hoping that he checks it back. But that's not what happens because our opponent goes quickly all in for $135 total. I just never see this play as a bluff, so I snap fold, and our opponent said that he had pocket queens for the overpair. These 3-bet pots are super tricky out of position, so it's important to get a good read on your opponent and bluff on favorable boards. After turning a full house with ace-3 of diamonds and getting 0 value, for this next hand we look down at another suited ace, but this time ace-4 of diamonds. 3 people just called at $2, and now middle position raises to 16. Folds to me in the big blind, and I could probably fold this hand since the original raiser has been pretty tight and has a short stack, but I'm in no folding mood, so I put in the chips. 2 of the 3 limpers call as well, so we're going 4 ways to a flop with 60 in the pot, and see a wild flop of 6-3 deuce with 2 diamonds, giving us a straight flush draw and a ton of equity against any holding. In a multi-way pot, I don't see the point in leading out with the draw when you're first stacked because there's no benefit in doing so. I start off with a check. Now a player in early position leads out for a super small bet of $16. Original raiser puts in the call, and now I got just what I wanted. Players that don't check to the pre-flop aggressor and decide to lead out with the small sizing usually means they have a 1-pair holding that wants to see where they're at. Now that the pre-flop aggressor just calls the $16, I'm pretty sure she has overcards because if she had a hand like 8s through aces, she would most likely want to put in a small raise to get value and charge the draws. So I'm sensing a lot of weakness, and when that's the case, you gotta pounce on it. Neither player has too much left in their stack, so I grab a full stack of red chips and throw in the raise to $100, putting our opponents to the test. Early position gets out of the way, and now the player who threw out the $16 bet mucks immediately. The original raiser looks annoyed, but also tosses her hand in the muck. Even though we're getting smoked today, I'm glad we kept the aggression and scooped in $77 with just ace high. We played a little longer and even picked up the same exact suited pocket 10s hand a couple times, but we just couldn't get anything else going that session. Off to the outro.
I was pretty happy with the way we fought back towards the end because we probably should have lost a lot more after those insane coolers. In for 800 and out for 394 for a $406 loss. Hopefully day 2 goes 1,000 times better than that shit show.
Once again, we buy in for $300, and since it was my last session of the year and I couldn't play too long, I thought, what the hell? Let's play super loose, push the action, and make it a fun one. So that's exactly what we did. After opening some good hands like King Jack of Clubs and getting shit runouts once again, we add on $100 to get our stack to the max, and we're already into the game for $400 total. For our first interesting hand of day 2, I looked down at the best hand in poker, which is none other than 7-deuce offsuit. I raised it up to $10 because when I promise you guys something, I deliver. 2 people put in the call, and the flop comes out ace-8-3 rainbow, giving us good old 7 high. Even though the flop does nothing for our specific hand, it's safe to say we have the range advantage since we're the pre-flop aggressor. When it's checked over to me, I throw out a c-bet of $15 and just get 1 caller from the small blind. There's no draws available, so after he calls, he's saying he has an ace or an 8 and not much else. Going to a turn heads up, and we see the queen of hearts, which should be a lot better for us than him. He checks, and I throw out a bet of $35 to which he calls once again. If our opponent had 2-pair or set, I think he would have already put in the raise, so I'm putting him on a weak ace, or maybe ace-jack at best. Pot's now up to $130, and we're going to need a favorable bluff card if we have any hope at winning this pot. River comes out the king of clubs, which in my opinion is about the best card we could have asked for. Since he didn't 3-bet pre-flop, I have ace queen and ace king in my range, while he's basically capped to a weak ace at best. He checks to me for a third time, and sitting here with the worst starting hand in poker, there's only two options. Give up and check, which guarantees I lose the pot, or bomb the river and try to get one of the sickest bluffs of my poker career. Let's go to Kurt Russell and Miracle to see what he thinks I should do.
This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
I stack up $110 in chips, and with 7 high in a dream, I bomb the river for a triple barrel bluff. We fade the snap call, which we love to see, because he would have already called with the sets in 2 pairs or a hand like ace-jack. So I think him having a weak ace was a spot-on read. It looks like he's about to toss his hand in the muck, but instead of doing that, he tosses 1 chip in the middle, signaling a call, and we get owned. Probably turn over the 7 deuce, because if you're gonna bluff, might as well get people to respect your table image. He shows ace 9 offsuit for just top pair, and even though our read was spot on, we just couldn't get it through. At least we know going forward to never bluff this opponent again. To get our stack to the max, we add on $200 after that failed bluff attempt, but while we're doing so, the literal next hand we pick up the Cowboys, pocket kings, and open them to $10. My table image must be a loose donkey because 3 people end up putting in the call. With $40 in the pot, the flop comes out Jack 8-4 with 2 clubs, giving us the overpair. I'm first stacked, and now it's time to value bet. On this type of board in a multi-way pot, you never want to bet small because there's so many draws, and a jack is just never folding. So I size up and throw out a $35 value bet, and what do you know? We just get a call from the button, who happens to be the same player we just donated to. Pot's now up to 110, and the turn is the amazing 5 of diamonds. Shouldn't change too much, so I still want to size up to charge all the draws, and given my table image, he's probably never folding a jack, so I settle on a sizing of $90. He snap calls, and pot's now up to 290, so we're looking for a clean river. And that's exactly what we get in the 4 of spades pairing the board. I doubt he would ever slow play a set or even 2 pair, which we now counterfeit, so I'm pretty confident we have the best hand and I go all in. Our opponent snap calls, so I turn over the Cowboys, and they're good after our opponent tosses his hand in the muck. Just like that, we get our entire donation back and more. That might have been my favorite 2-hand combo of 2024. In our next interesting hand, I look down at another premium holding, but this time pocket jacks, and open them up to $10 under the gun. A player in early position now 3-bets to 25, and action gets folded back to me. He has exactly $100 in his stack, so now it's decision time. Fold or go all in. Folding is fine at this level, but since he only had $100 and could be doing this with ace-king or ace-queen, I decided to put our opponent all in, and he snap calls. I turn over the jackasses, and he turns over pocket aces. Run out doesn't give us the miracle 2-outer, and just like that, we go from being up $50 to now stuck 50. I don't know what the hell is going on this session, but I'm loving it. Next hand up, the action gets folded all the way to the button, who opens to $6. Small blind calls, and I'm in the big blind and look down at ace-queen offsuit. In this configuration, there's only one play. 3-bet. I 3-bet to $30, and surprisingly, both players put in the chips. Pot's up to $90, and the flop comes out 9-9-4 with 2 spades, giving us 2 overs. On paired boards, there's no point in betting big if you're gonna bluff, because if you had an overpair, you wouldn't want to scare anyone away. So since I have the range advantage and the ace of spades blocker to apply future pressure, I throw out a c-bet of $35, and surprisingly both players fold, which I'll take any day of the week and twice on Sunday. The button said that he had pocket 6s, and the small blind said he had pocket 7s, giving us the win after being in 3rd place. Sometimes aggression pays off, especially when you don't do it with 7-deuce offsuit. We go card dead for a bit, but we eventually picked up a playable hand. There's one limp in early position, and I raise pocket 7s to $10. 2 people put in the call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop of 10-6-6 rainbow, giving us second pair. Checks to me, and on boards like this, I like throwing out a small bet. I could get value from smaller pairs, and if you bet small, a lot of overcards will float to try and improve. So I throw out a bet of $10 and just get called from the small blind. Pot's up to $50, and the turn comes out the 10 of spades. He checks again, and I think a check back here is the obvious play. My hand doesn't need too much protection, and I want to look weak so I can induce a river bluff. River comes out the biggest blank in the deck and the deuce of diamonds. Now our opponent throws out a bet of $15. I actually hated this sizing because it seemed super value heavy, but in the end I just didn't check back the turn to fold to a river bet. So I put in the chips, and he turns over ace-jack offsuit for just ace high, and our 3 pair holds up. That small pot finally got us back over the even mark, and I only had a few minutes left to play, so I was about to rack up and leave, but I looked down and got dealt 7 deuce offsuit once again. The same player we donated to the first time limps an early position, and this is obviously an easy fold, but I didn't learn my lesson, and what's the fun in that? So I raise it up to $15, and surprisingly, one by one, everyone folds, and I scoop in $5 of profit with the best hand ever created. Of course, I have to show the table, and after doing so, I decided winning with 7 deuce offsuit was the perfect way to wrap up our 2024 poker season, so let's get to the outro.
Despite looking like a fool with that failed 7 deuce bluff and then running jacks into aces, we somehow still managed to book a win. In for 600, now for 630 for a nice little profit of $30 to end the year.
My goal with this channel has always been to be the most transparent and honest poker vlogger out there, so now that 2024 has come to an end, let's go over my poker income for the year. In terms of location, we made the bulk of our money at Capital Casino, where we logged most of our hours. We did decent at Stones, but we ran like pure dog shit at both Harrah's and Tahoe and Thunder Valley and Lincoln. For whatever reason, we played awesome at the beginning of the week, but played horrible on Thursdays. No clue why, but I thought that was pretty interesting. We had a great start at the beginning of the year, but from April to August, it was a straight grind. August was my biggest losing month of my poker career, but we somehow managed to not let it deter us, and just 1 month later, we had our biggest winning month and won over $3,700 in just 31 hours of play. Pretty funny how poker and life works sometimes. This year I played a total of just 32 hours and 25 minutes of 1-2 and cashed in 7 out of 10 sessions. In 1-2 I made a total of $1,113 for an hourly win rate of $34.33. Even though it was a small sample size, I'm not surprised by the results because the 1-2 game at Stones features some crazy action, and it's the stake that I'm most comfortable playing in because I have so many hours logged in this specific game. In 2024, we played a total of 297 hours and 5 minutes of 1-3 and cashed in 45 of 80 sessions. This is far below my win rate throughout the years, but since 2024 was my first full year playing in the 1-3 match set game, I'm not surprised because it was a major adjustment. In 1-3, I made a total of $3,063 for an hourly win rate of $10.31. This is obviously below what I wanted to achieve for the year, but to be honest with you guys, it took me a while to get comfortable playing super deep stacked. I went from playing 1-2 and buying in for $300 max to 1-3 match stack, which plays more like a 2-5, and buying in for $1,000 to $2,000 most days. It was pretty intimidating at first, but once I got around 250 hours in the game, I started to feel pretty confident playing these stakes, and the results reflected that. So combining my 1-2 and 1-3 stats, I made a total of $4,176 for an hourly win rate of $12.67. This is my lowest hourly win rate in 3 years, but like I said, this is my first year playing 1-3, and I'm confident going forward I could improve that tremendously. Anytime I could do something I love and somehow make money, I'll always be happy. So that wraps up our poker income for the year, so let's talk about how YouTube did. For 2024, I made a grand total of $6,741. I got monetized back in March after getting 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours under my belt. I was thrilled with how much I made my first month being monetized and was surprised it kept increasing. The The thing I'm most fired up about is in October and November, I didn't even post the video since it was harvest season for the rice and I had my second kid, but I still managed to make close to $1,200 in that time span thanks to every one of you that tunes in. Most of my videos average $100 to $200 each, but I did have one single video that made over $1,000, which I never would have believed was possible. I started this channel at the end of 2023 with small expectations, and thanks to you guys, I've far exceeded them. If we combine both my poker and YouTube income, I made a grand total of $10,917 for the year. Pretty happy with how the year 2024 turned out, and the main thing I'm excited for in 2025 is the chance to play more poker and create more content for you guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, I hope you guys run good at the tables, and I'd appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button to help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers.